collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Coming up on this week's programme, as a phone hacking scandal in Greece raises questions about companies operating in Cyprus, the Digital Security Authority has said SMEs here should beef up their internet security.
If the people are intending to work from home, they should be using a company's device because it will connect properly, it will connect via VPN, which is a secure connection, it will be protected, the device.
The EU has said energy and particularly renewable sources of electricity could bridge the divide in Cyprus.
Solar energy in the buffer zone is great, I think, bearing in mind that the electricity grid is still interconnected between the two communities. There is the possibility of setting up something in the middle, in what is now the buffer zone, which could actually supply energy to both sides of the Green Line.
And entrepreneurs from both Cypriot communities are invited to apply to Startups for Peace.
We have a vision that entrepreneurs from both communities and not only in this island can work together, develop their startups and do business together. And also we believe that business doesn't have checkpoints or any restrictions.
On Monday, the Digital Security Authority issued online safety advice to businesses. That's because a Eurobarometer report has showed that more small and medium-sized establishments in Cyprus fell victim to different types of cybercrime than their EU counterparts. Joining us to discuss the issue is the Commissioner of Electronic Communications, George Michailidis. George, why are we falling short? I thought we were quite sort of computer savvy in Cyprus.
Well, actually, I wouldn't say we are falling short because what is happening to our SMEs, it happens elsewhere around the globe. The kind of attacks that we have to deal with, it's the kind of attacks that anyone, anywhere, has to deal with. I would say the question will be, what do we have to do to protect ourselves, our businesses from these attacks? As an example, the major issues we are having is the phishing attacks. When someone is trying to obtain information from you, it might be accesses, passwords for your company, it might be account details, bank details from you, and then later on using this information and trying to extract money from you, which is the most, I would say, common problem that we have.
OK, but it's not very difficult, is it, to protect against things like that? So let's talk about what sort of protection is available and what the uptake is, particularly since we do have so many family businesses in Cyprus that are pretty small.
Yes, well, I would say it's common logic, I would say, most of the things. For example, it's like you don't need anyone to tell you that in the middle of the night, or if you don't know who is knocking your door, maybe you don't open the door. It's exactly like this. If they are sending you an email and you don't know who is the sender, or even if the sender looks familiar to you, which might not be himself, might be somebody else pretending that is that person, and you feel that this email came from nowhere in the sense that there was no reason to send it to you, do call that person and confirm whether he was the sender. Never reply to that person because he might go to the fraud.
And never open any attachments either. But it's very simple, isn't it, to check the email address it's coming from with a right click.
That's exactly the point. You can do that. Nevertheless, there are attacks that they are more sophisticated. You may even see the right email, but it might not be that one. But still, as I said, if you are, let's say, an accountant in your own company, because that happened not long ago, the CEO comes to you and he's ordering you to make a payment, but never happened that before because it is not in the process, check it out. Because if something comes which is out of the ordinary, we need to question it. We shouldn't just do it.
Okay, now let's talk about what the Digital Security Authority does. Are you in a position to offer even online courses to maybe new businesses or well-established ones where perhaps the top people are rather older and maybe not as computer savvy? I mean, are you able to help get them up to scratch?
Well, let me first say a couple of things about what is the DSA and why it has been created. The Digital Security Authority that was created in 2018, it was part of a European directive, and it has been created in Cyprus the same as in any other European country in order to protect the critical infrastructures. That is the production of electricity, water supply, ports, airports, etc. So that is the main reason of the creation of the Digital Security Authority. Nevertheless, our target is when we cover and we feel more confident in covering these critical infrastructures, to make sure that we go a step further and start working for the SMEs. That's why we started at this level, providing some awareness. And then you're right, the next thing is to make it more like workshops, more practical things, maybe even allow them to receive some kind of support under certain circumstances. Yes, this is in our plan in the next month.
And I presume you can do that through the chambers of commerce and so on?
Exactly. Actually, we're already in collaboration with them, with the chamber. And one of our, I would say, targets is to create a framework in the sense that the same framework that we have for the critical infrastructures that they have to abide and they have to follow, to create something similar for the SMEs. And then if they wish to abide to this framework, then they can present themselves that they are like certified, security certified up to a certain level. And that, of course, that will give them some more credibility or even giving them the ability to do more business with others because they will be fulfilling some basic level of security.
Let me just ask you finally about the Eurobarometer survey. It said that 74% of Cypriot SMEs surveyed reported that their employees use personally owned devices to carry out business-related activities. Now, in the EU average, that's 48%. So how far is that a problem? Because one would assume that a sort of medium-sized business would have its own cybersecurity people there, but it's very much more difficult, isn't it, if you're using your own computer?
Yes, that's absolutely the case. The problem is that if you are using your own device, that means that there is no central control for that device. There is no central antivirus and protection control. But more or less, the company will depend on how well the individual will maintain his own device, which is not a good thing. So I would say that the best thing is to have a centralized control with companies' own devices. And in that way, you will be able to force the passwords, how they will be changing, the antivirus and malware installed on the machines, how soon and how often will be updated within the new software, so they will be kept up to date. So all this can only be done if you have a centralized control via the own company. Otherwise, it will just depend on the individual, and if the people are not like computer illiterated, most probably it will not be happening.
Yeah, so it's really a question as well when we've been having lockdowns and working from home as to whether or not companies are willing to let their devices be taken home for working remotely.
Exactly. And now, as you mentioned it, with the work from home, that makes it even more complicated. So I would say and this is what we do, at least in my organization, and what we advise people. If the people are intending to work from home, they should be using a company's device because it will connect properly. It will connect via VPN, which is a secure connection. It will be protected, the device, other than the individuals, which might bring all the problems that we described earlier on.
Well, hopefully these problems, now that it's out there in the open, will be addressed by the SMEs. George Michailidis, Commissioner of Electronic Communications, many thanks for telling us all about it.
Thank you very much for your time.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
The European Commission has been promoting a new idea with regard to facilitating a solution to our long-standing problem on the island. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has been focusing on the issue of electricity production. Now, this is something, along with the way that we approach our hydrocarbons, that's been very much to the fore with presidential elections coming up next year. Achilleas Dimitriadis, well known to regular listeners, is a prominent Nicosia lawyer, and he's standing for the presidency. He joins us now. Achilleas, you've been saying for ages, I think, that hydrocarbons, energy in general, I suppose, should be something that can bring the two sides closer together. So what do you make of this idea of a bi-communal renewable park?
I'd say it's a very good idea. You're absolutely right. I think energy is the catalyst for starting and perhaps solving the Cyprus problem, starting the process, because we really need to have a kickstart of where we are now. And this idea by the president is a great one. Solar energy in the buffer zone is great. I think, bearing in mind that the electricity grid is still interconnected between the two communities, there is the possibility of setting up something in the middle, in what is now the buffer zone, which could actually supply energy to both sides of the Green Line. I understand that in the occupied areas there is a big issue with electricity these days. Production has fallen. There is no fuel to get the electricity generators going, and it's a serious issue. So this idea of a bi-communal solar park, I think is great. It's actually something you were kind enough to discuss some time ago. We tried to use the buffer zone to set up a bi-communal COVID hospital in the days that COVID had just started, and this was one of the ideas. Something else is a high-grade incinerator in the buffer zone where people can actually convert waste into electricity. And of course, we have the biggest bi-communal project that has been going on, and that's the sewerage plan of Nicosia, which is actually working with the processing unit north of the Green Line and serving both communities. So bringing the two communities together is a great idea. The president of the EU has thrown this idea of solar energy as being a catalyst, and I think that's something we should all really look at very seriously.
Have you spoken to anyone in the north about how they think this will be received? Because the current authorities, shall we call them, there, are very much against any form of confidence-building measures or anything else.
Well, yes, I know that they have this two-state policy and that they're not so keen on confidence-building measures, but this is a necessity. This is something the people are asking. Both sides of the Green Line have to deal with it. I think it's a great idea. We need to move into renewables as the EU has directed. The green agenda is something that is very important, and it's a fantastic opportunity. If the green agenda, the solar energy, could also be the catalyst to kick off the discussions for a solution of the Cyprus problem.
And I think probably the fact that this shortage of energy, which is probably going to get more acute as we move into winter, it's going to affect every single household, isn't it? So perhaps there could be a sea change in people's attitudes because it will benefit everybody if this comes to pass.
Well, electricity prices are going up by 22%. I understand that's the next bill that's coming, and I see no end to it. So there's two ways of dealing with it. One is lowering consumption, and that has to do with being more careful as to how we use energy and how we insulate our homes to deal with heat and cold. And the second level is renewables, and renewables could be auto-generating, for example, solar panels on our roof, or it could be a solar park in the buffer zone, which actually helps both communities equally well. So moving into the green aspect of energy and getting rid of fuel oil that we're burning, which also creates problems with the environment. We're getting a penalty because of the use of fuel oil as the way of producing electricity. And I think it would actually kill two birds with one stone, if I can use that expression.
Now, you've been going around the various festivals, I believe, that we've had, and we always do have in August, with art festivals, music festivals and so on, talking to young people. What's the feedback you've been getting from them about any form of cooperation, not only with the Turkish Cypriots and the authorities in the north, but also about the long-term future, because they do all seem to be concerned about climate change and the environment?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think, well, just to close on the Cyprus issue, I think we need to look at that, and we also need some sort of restoring of credibility, because Brussels and New York don't really take us very seriously. Our credibility has been damaged, and my position on that is that the current administration is the one that has damaged this credibility, and people from this administration cannot possibly be the ones to restore it. So we need new people, we need new ideas in an effort to go forward. And that brings me to young people, as you have said. You're absolutely right. We're going round. We got a minibus, and we're touring various festivals, various locations where young people are, and in fact where all kinds of people are. But the young, for me, are the most important group of voters or potential voters, because it is actually for them that we're trying to build a better place. So looking at the young is really serious. If you look at the statistics, more than half of the 18 to 25-year-old have not actually registered on the electoral roll. Therefore, they are not eligible to vote. In Cyprus, we have a system that you first need to register once you become 18-year-old, and that requires an application. It's just paperwork, and you become eligible to vote. But having not done that, then that doesn't work. And what has happened, it seems, is that these youngsters that have registered are mostly influenced by the younger groups in a political party which arrange for them to have this registration done. And the others who don't belong to political parties don't seem to get this service, and in any event are feeling that the system doesn't represent them, so why bother? So our position on that is, in terms of the campaign, that we really need to increase awareness. We are trying to generate interest in young people registering so as to vote. And the line is, please register. You don't have to vote for us, but do register, because that is the only way you can actually influence the system. And not taking any stand is not simply a neutral position. It's a negative position, because that way you allow others to decide for you. So you're actually losing the opportunity you have to influence the system. And for this, we're putting up a free concert in September with Onirama, a band from Greece and a Cypriot artist. We're giving tickets for free if people can show that they have registered and they are eligible to vote. The concert is on Friday, the 16th of September, and people interested in getting a free ticket can call our office in Nicosia, and we can arrange for the tickets to be given to them.
And you're also, I think, offering, if they fill in the form or at least sign it, that you will do the donkey work and fetch their voting book for them.
Absolutely. Forgot to mention that. You're absolutely right. There are forms here. They need to pass by and sign the forms because the government needs original forms. And then we present them, and then they get a notice saying that they have registered, and that actually does the job. I mean, had the government really wanted to facilitate this, they could have actually started allowing people to register electronically, or better still, the political parties who could have amended the law so that when you actually turn 18, you become eligible to vote immediately. Just like when you turn 18 and a piece of paper comes saying you have to go to the army because you are now required to serve national service. Why can't the system not generate a registration on the electoral roll as soon as you turn 18?
Indeed, it would simplify everything, would it not? Pleasure once again to talk to presidential candidate Achilleas Dimitriadis on the Cyprus News Digest.
Thank you very much, Rosie, and just let's try and run an honest state because Cyprus really deserves better than what we have.
You can subscribe to the Cyprus News Digest on iTunes for free and get the program downloaded to your phone or tablet so you can listen anytime, anywhere.
The Embassy of Finland is co-funding Startups for Peace. It's a project that aims to encourage startup entrepreneurship, but with an intercommunal vision in Cyprus. To tell us all about it and how you can apply, we welcome from the Finnish Embassy, Marilena Kyprianou. Marilena, this is something that I think will encourage different sorts of people to interact across the Green Line, because we have a lot of art and music events that bring the Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots together, but entrepreneurship is perhaps something that a lot of them haven't thought about before. So what do people need to do?
Well, actually, thank you for giving me the opportunity, Rosie, to speak about Startups for Peace, which is an initiative started already 7 years ago from the Embassy of Finland. We have a vision that entrepreneurs from both communities, and not only in this island, can work together, develop their startups, and do business together. And also we believe that business doesn't have checkpoints or any restrictions. So what we do, we launched the project once more this year, and we invite young entrepreneurs from both sides of the divide and from both communities to come up with ideas, which will give the opportunity to 3 winners to visit Slush in Helsinki in the mid of November, which is most probably the biggest startup event in Europe. It's a very big opportunity that the embassy gives to the winners of the project, and we strongly believe to the added value of this project when it comes to the peace process here in Cyprus.
So what sort of startups tend to be involved in something like this? Because a startup is really a new idea, it's got to be, hasn't it?
Yes, actually, we got really, really interesting ideas and startups that are trying to make their way up in the business environment here in Cyprus. We receive applications from robotics, in sustainable development. We got ideas about how, for example, a dentist can work with the patient via an application without meeting each other at an initial stage. We got Bitcoin, a new way of payment, which is different from the ones that we already know. These are some small examples of the applications that we received and participants that we already had in previous years.
Now, when the winners get to Helsinki, because I think there are 3 teams that will be going to this Slush event, what do they do there?
Well, first of all, winners have 2-day passes to attend all events in Slush, which includes side events, meeting with sponsors, meeting with other startups that already made their way up in the startup community. There are many, many new ideas, funders that are looking for startups to fund. So this event includes motivational speakers and side events and, of course, networking between the startups. it's a unique opportunity and a unique experience for entrepreneurs who want to see how startups work in a European level, let's say.
So they might even be lucky enough to get funding to make their startup actually happen.
Exactly, yes. And this is something that we try to promote. We check very well beforehand which of the events of Flash, because it's a huge event. You can easily get lost in the whole organization. We try to provide added value to the visit as much as possible to the winners. And as you said, this year, for the first time, 3 teams will attend Flash and not 2 like the previous years.
Okay, now I think that I'm right in saying the deadline for submissions is the 19th of August, so people need to get a move on, I guess. What should anybody who's listening to this and thinks, I've got an idea, what should they do?
Well, first of all, correctly said, the deadline is on the 19th of August. In the meantime, the team of Startups for Peace is available to reply any questions that potential applicants may have. If somebody has an idea, there is also a networking pool where they can go on the website of startupsforpeace.eu and apply and find out if there is another person that they can work with on that idea, either from another community or somebody who has a similar idea or somebody who might be looking for a partnership. And if the idea is solid and they proceed with the application, then by beginning of September we will have a reply referring to which applications will move on to the boot camps.
I was going to come to the boot camps because I think that's 4 days of pretty hard work. Tell us about that.
Actually, boot camp is a preparation. The 2 boot camps that we plan to have in September and October is a preparation of the team in order to pitch their idea and then decide which are going to be the winner teams. On the side, the boot camps give an opportunity to participants to get to know each other, exchange ideas, be together, which is a very, very important part of this project, actually interact with each other, learn from each other. We plan to have speakers flying in from Finland and Ireland, trainers that will provide them tools, knowledge, and ideas for their startups. So boot camps is more of a training and preparation to the pitching battle, but also an opportunity to learn more about startups and the entrepreneurship environment and how to proceed with their ideas.
So basically anybody listening should go, I guess, to startups and then the number 4, peace.eu, and then fill in the form and take it from there.
Exactly. And we are more than happy to reply to any questions. The team that works for the project is ready to reply, ready to help. So please do proceed with your applications, with your ideas. And who knows, maybe we will have a unicorn, as we say in the startup language, among applicants where the sky is the limit.
Absolutely. And I know you have a Facebook page, again, Startups for Peace. So hopefully it's going to be a record-breaking year for applications. And I think we should say that there have been similar things to this in the past, but even those who don't make the cut very often go on to form their own companies and become successful business people.
Exactly. Yes. And we have many examples of this, and we want to give the opportunity in order to have a startup environment, to develop the startup environment, to develop entrepreneurship, to develop new ideas, to give the floor for people to try their new ideas.
Let me just clarify one thing. If I've got a good idea, do I have to find a Turkish Cypriot partner, or will you help me do that?
Well, we also can help with the networking and with the partnership. but it's preferable to have a bi-communal team. But not only, it's preferable we promote women participation in the project, and it's one of the things that we try to develop also. So the team will try to find partnership if a Greek Cypriot is looking for a partner in the Turkish Cypriot community. But also, we would like to invite more women and more young people to try their ideas and apply for Startups for Peace.
Startups for Peace, and you've got until the 19th of August to put in your application. Marilena Kyprianou, thanks for telling us all about it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, with the island shutting down pretty well for the next couple of weeks at least, I think we'll also take a break at the Cyprus News Digest. I hope to be back at the beginning of September, but till we meet again, have a great summer and take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.